Hey everyone, it's Don McKinnon, pastor of Legacy Church. I am here speaking in the now to give way to something that is in the past. What you are about ready to listen to was originally recorded for our old Keep Moving Forward podcast. And we decided that as we were recording the material for seasons 2 and 3, this go round, rather than toss this material because it was good, we just decided to record this buffer that we're going to use on all 3 broadcasts and let you know that this is an old recording that was never put out there before, but the material we felt was a must to listen to. So we hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you later.
Okay, welcome back to Keep Moving Forward. Hey, you know what I just realized?
What was that?
I'm not saying the Practical Church Revitalization podcast anymore. Part of it is because I have a Keep Moving Forward patch that's in my office, and I keep looking at that. So, I am here. I'm Don McKinnon. I know it seems like we're entering into this all discombobulated because we haven't done it in so long. But I am Don McKinnon, pastor of Legacy Church in Sutton, Massachusetts. And with me is my lovely co-host,
Natalie McKinnon.
Okay. I don't know if that one caught. But anyway, we're using old new technology.
Old new?
Old new, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, or new old, I don't know what to call it. Anyway, so we're here. We're going to be doing part 2 of our proper etiquette for pastors when people from other churches visit. But before we do that, we have a little bit of housekeeping. So, something I think we always focus on, what we're doing, what we're trying to do to get out into the community.
Right.
And I think one thing that we have to do is we have to focus on
our people.
On our people. Part of why a church needs to be revitalized is because the church becomes too inwardly focused. But at the same time, you do
have the opposite, up to outwardly focused.
Yeah. But you also have to have certain inward things to create unity and discipleship. Mm-hmm. So we have 2 things that we are going to be doing, and Natalie is going to take that.
So we are going to be rotating every other month between a Friday night dinner, like from a 5 to a 7, I think, or something like that, 5 to 7, or yeah. And we would rotate options of kind of like a potluck kind of style thing versus maybe buying pizzas, or everyone could bring their own dinner. It's really just a time for us to come together and have a meal together and fellowship and get to know one another better, especially as the church grows and we have other families, younger families coming in.
Yep.
It gives you a chance to really sit down and talk to someone that maybe you don't get to talk to on Sunday morning, because you come in and you might be serving and doing a certain ministry, and you stay for a little bit of fellowship, and you just don't get to talk to everyone. I mean, there's been even weeks that we've had a lot of guests, and you speak to half the guests, and I get a chance to speak to half the guests, but we don't get to fully talk to all of them, both of us.
Mm-hmm. And I think also, you might be saying, well, why don't you do it after church on a Sunday? And we would, we've done in the past, as a church, we were doing potlucks. But one thing that we have now is we have a certain number of people in our church that are, they've taken a part-time job, and that part-time job is after church. So they, there isn't that time.
And I think too, it also it's being respectful and honoring the families in our church to have their family time on Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
They might be traveling to go spend the afternoon with their elderly parents or whatever.
Or, we have several people in our church that they work a job where they have to travel and they're away
Right.
for the week, and so they might have just come back Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, and they want to unwind. They came to worship because they want to lead by example.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
they want to have that family time with their...
Right. So this is just going to be a time for our church family to have that fellowship, breaking bread together, pray together. And so we're going to rotate between doing the dinners, and then we're going to have on the other month, we're going to have a family movie.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like a movie that we're really promoting it to the community.
Right.
This is just things that are going to bring our church family closer together on a regular, consistent basis.
So on those movies, we'll have popcorn, snacks, drinks, stuff like that. They're going to be able to sit down and enjoy, but at the same time, me if you've listened to this podcast when we launched from 2017 on. I am not a big fan of Christian movies, but I'm not saying that there aren't good Christian movies out there.
Yeah, there are some good ones, yes.
And I think some of those good Christian movies, really the reason why I like them is they nail an important discipleship principle we want, or a certain thing in discipleship that we want them to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to show those movies and, hopefully have discussions or how that goes. We'll see. But hopefully, the idea is that somebody watches one of these movies and gets the idea and says, oh, and decides, I see what pastor has been saying on Sundays, or
right.
I see what, they've been talking about at Sunday study and different things. So
absolutely.
That's what we're going to be doing. So, if you have good ideas, hey, message us.
We would love to hear them.
We do have a Facebook page. For some reason, they will not let me change the title to Keep Moving Forward. So it is still under the Practical Revitalization Podcast, but I have bracketed it and put in Keep Moving Forward Podcast.
Okay.
So you can go there, or you can message us, email us at, I think it's practicalrevitalization@gmail.com, and let us know. And also, if you like this podcast, please like and subscribe. But with that, we're going to jump right into part 2 of our discussion about proper etiquette for pastors when visitors
from other churches.
Yeah, come to your church from other churches.
Right.
So we did 1, 2, and 3 last week. 1 was when they think that, their church is lacking something and they like what you do, what you do there.
Number 2 is don't push weaknesses, push strengths.
Yep. And number 3 is ask questions to find out where they're from. Find out what the name of their church is, what the name of their pastor is, and if you have to be a mediator, be that.
Right.
Contact the pastor. So now we're on to number 4.
Number 4, don't sell your church from the pulpit.
Ah, yes. This is the one that I and so many other pastors have been guilty of early on in church revitalization, or a lot of pastors in established churches that are growing are guilty of. And what that is I used to term this as the pat ourselves on the back technique. It's one thing to praise something that you are doing in the community, especially if you did it yesterday. But if you find, if you're sitting there praising something that you did 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago,
right?
You gotta stop pumping the church up, because a lot of that good graces, or whatever we want to call it, a lot of that is to the side now. So the thing is don't get up there, don't try to sell your church, don't and when I mean sell your church, one thing is if you have conversations with people and you find out that, hey, our church is preaching this thing that, we know is wrong, don't get up there and be like, you know what, you're never going to hear this preached from the pulpit. Don't try to sell them, don't try to sell yourself out. That's the better thing.
Right.
Just be natural. Keep being natural. You have been given a sermon from God to preach to your church. Just preach that sermon.
Right.
Let them have conversations with yourself, with your wife, with other people in the church,
Right.
and let that be the selling point. So, anything you can think of from that?
No, I think you covered that.
I know
that was pretty self-explanatory.
That one was self-explanatory, and it was more of, only the pastor should do it. And that's the other thing too, is I think you need to talk to the other people that are going to be up on stage with you. Your worship leader. If you have people coming up there for announcements or anything else. Now, announcements would sound like the proper place to sell a church, but you're already selling stuff that you've already planned.
Right.
So that's not really selling it, but don't make sure that you talk to your people, and you say, when we have visitors, let's be aware of this, but let's not never sound desperate.
Right. So number 5 is, if a person has to leave their church, make sure they are a good fit for yours.
Yes. So here's the one thing. We talked last week about asking questions to find out where they're from. And part of that was to find out if there is a biblical reason for them to leave. Now, if there is a biblical reason for them to leave, all right, i.e., the pastor is preaching heretical doctrine or something in that regards, then because they found you doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good fit for your church.
Because they might not be under church discipline. But it's
we're not even talking about church discipline. We're talking like they have a biblical reason for them to leave. So church discipline isn't that. But what we're saying is, they're coming to your church. Don't be selling.
Right. But what I'm trying to say is that just because they have gifts and talents and everything, it really might not be a good fit for your church.
Right.
It might be a better fit for the church down the street.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I think a lot of pastors have a tough time understanding, because they might say, hey, we lack this position in our church, and this person's saying they can fit that position quite well. Okay, but how long do you give them before they join the church and before they fit into that?
Which goes into having a good vetting process.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think like what you have to do is you have to have a month, not a month, but a 6-month process. See where they're from, see how they're doing, see how they're a good fit. Talk to people in your church, talk to other leaders in your church.
Well, I think it really also depends on where you're plugging them into.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, yes, okay, there are on board,
Right. So, like, a person coming in that's been there like a month and a half, they could greet.
Right, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about, like, if they want to become part of the leadership. Or,
right.
That sort of stuff.
Right.
That's what we have to understand.
Yes,
That's why we want a strong vetting process.
Right.
So you're going to sit there and you're going to say, okay, so, like, if they are greeting, you're going to sit there and you're going to talk to whoever's in charge of your first impressions team and say, how are they?
How are they doing? How are they interacting?
Do they arrive on time? Do they do this? Do they do that?
Right.
And then you're going to go on. You're going to talk to other guys in your church leadership to see how they're noticing this person.
Right.
You're going to talk to other people who may not necessarily be in leadership, but you appreciate their wisdom and see what they say about that person. That's what we have to do. We have to build up.
So
their,
say a person was from the other church, they started coming to yours, but they weren't a good fit. How would you answer a pastor that came to you and said, this person just isn't a good fit? They're a great person. They have gifts. They have talents. They didn't leave their church for unbiblical reasons, but they're not a good fit. How would you, what kind of advice would you give to that pastor to tell them that they're not a good fit for that particular church?
So the thing I would say is you have to kind of think about this. We come from denominations. So the question becomes, are they a good match for you denominationally? Case in point, a Presbyterian, like people say Presbyterians and Baptists are very similar. Okay, they are. There is a lot of similarities. But one area that they disagree with is baptism. And what I mean by that is we believe in adult baptism, or at least age of knowledge. Like if the kid knows, hey, I'm 11 years old, but I know right from wrong, and I've accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, and I want to be baptized, okay. But Presbyterians, they believe in christening the child and then going through the process afterwards of making sure that they understand what it means. And that would be the thing. If a person comes from that kind of background and says, I don't want to be baptized, I've already been baptized, then you have to sit there and say, I don't think this is going to work out. Mm-hmm. Especially if like they've been hearing this and you've had baptisms going on in your church all that time, so they know what you believe.
Right.
That's going to be an issue.
So obviously, you need to do a lot of praying to make sure that the Holy Spirit is guiding those decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens too many times is a church will see what's going on and will say, we're just trying to grow, so we're going to take everybody we can. And what happens is when they do that, it makes a smorgasbord that isn't going to help build the church in the direction that the pastor is trying to lead.
And the other thing, too, is I've seen it situations where it becomes a popularity contest, and the person is, say, it is a good fit, and the pastor sees this person is genuine and they'd be an excellent fit for the church, and it's a popularity contest, that can cause problems too.
Right. So we just gotta be careful, and that's why we emphasize having a vetting process before putting anybody in leadership. And like I would be honest. Like we ourselves here have been burned by people, and so they might think, you guys, I want to be in leadership. Well, if you're being impatient, then really, honestly, you're not a good fit for this church. On the other hand, if you are sitting there and you're patient and you understand, okay, I understand, then that's a good sign for that
But that's also, too, why you have the on-board opportunities like reading or maybe assisting in the children's ministry or something, as long as they're, background checked. But because you do have people that are very, they're coming from a good place, and they want to serve. They have a heart to serve. So if you have that proper vetting process, you're not going to be putting them in like a lead position.
Right.
But they want to serve.
Right.
So you don't want to sit around too long with them either.
Right.
Because you want people to step up and
you want to put them in.
Right, plug them in, because it is exciting for a pastor to come across someone that has a heart to serve, and they're like, use me however you see fit.
I think it's always that thing. There's a meme going around on Facebook, and it talks about how, if you're a church planter, the tattoo, it's like the guy gets a tattoo and he says, I tells the tattoo artist, I want a tattoo that explains that I know what it means to serve in the church. And the tattoo artist tattoos a stack of chairs, pew chairs, on his arm. Because usually, that's the first job a lot of people, come to in a church. And so
you got to be faithful with little before God's going to give you something bigger to be faithful
right,
with.
exactly.
Like, I've even seen a meme I think it was a meme somewhere on Facebook where, like, you showed the pastor, like, cleaning the bathrooms, being that servant, like, it's not above them.
Right. So we have to make sure that they're a good fit, and it does go into that thing, how do they fit in with the church theologically? How do they fit into the church as a servant? How do they fit in with the church in these things? A lot of people will come to a church because they're leaving because they wanted to be in a position of leadership. And when they came to the realization that they might not be a leader right away, they turn around and leave. They go to the next church, until
right.
I hate to use this term, but until they find the sucker that's going to take them in.
Right.
So that is point 5.
So point 6, just be natural, let growth happen.
Yeah. So in that case there, we go back to last week when I was saying, or, not last week, but earlier when I said don't sell your church from the pulpit. You just want to be natural. You want to have organic discussions with these people. You want to...
people will see that you're genuine.
Right.
You
don't want to force your ideas and thoughts and all those things on somebody all at once. You want to have the discussions. You want to have all this sort of talk, where you're going to get to know the person.
Right.
That's the main thing. You want to get to know the person. You want them to get to know you. And then after that, after those types of discussions happen, then comes the whole thing of, hey, you've been coming here for a while. Let's talk church membership. Let's talk.
Well, I think too when you get involved in their lives, and you show that you really care for them. Going to a kid's birthday, going to a kid's baseball game. They need someone. I mean, not just the things that people expect of pastors, but things that you wouldn't necessarily have to do, but you want to do because it genuinely shows that you care about them. Then that growth happens when you have the right heart attitude, because then those people are going to come to you and say, hey, I would love to help out in that area. And it's nothing that you've even done. It's the Holy Spirit answering the prayers of bringing the right people at the right time with the right gifts.
Right, and that's the thing.
And we've seen that.
Right. And that's the thing is, I think just being natural, you do hear that. Like, I think about this, and I'm trying not to badmouth or sound like I'm bad-mouthing, but I'm going from my own experiences. When I talk to people and people have expressed things that they've liked or disliked about other pastors, when it comes to the dislike, it's always that disingenuousness. Another thing that I think about is we are in a time with... I don't know what I want to say. We're in a time and season with people right now where this generation coming up, we look at millennials and then Gen Z, I forget what they call them, Homelanders, I think is their title, but we look at them and we see that part of why they're attracted to smaller churches is because they're saying there's more authenticity in smaller churches, whereas they look at they look at the bigger churches and they look at the pastors as more of the ringmaster, they're trying to sell the show, they're trying to sell the church, they're trying, and a lot of what they're doing is not authentic. It's not what they're seeking. And
Right.
so we have to keep that in mind, especially older pastors. That's something that they might see their church being small as a weakness, but really now it's becoming a strength. So that's something that we need to really emphasize with a lot of these pastors and churches today.
Right.
So that is it, for our series here. A 2-part series. We were looking at proper etiquette for pastors when visitors from other churches come in.
Yep.
Maybe you have something that you think we should know about. Hey, message us on Facebook or leave a comment on the page. But
Yep.
Other than that, we've got some exciting stuff coming up. I'm really looking forward to.
I just thought of another topic.
All right.
So.
But with that, I'm Don McKinnon.
And I'm Natalie McKinnon.
And we're going to say, keep moving forward.
God bless.